I'm Grace Torrey, and you're listening to That Girl the Podcast. Grab a beverage of choice and settle in, because the new episode is starting now. Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl, Grace Torrey, and I am back with a whole new podcast episode. Today we are going to be talking about little sisterly advice. I don't have a little sister, but I do have a lot of friends that are younger than me, and I've been giving them advice. Like, friendships, I'm not kidding, that span back to like elementary school where I've been giving them advice. And it's just one of my favorite things to do is to just like, I don't know, talk about life and compare experiences and talk about like what I think and then like their thoughts. And I think it's just I don't know, it's special. But with that being said, I felt like this would be a good time to kind of sit down and give you my sisterly advice. These are like things that no matter what the situation is, I think that the advice still holds true. It's big things like your job or your relationship or where you live, like big decisions that you're typically making in your 20s. And crazy to think, but I will be 25 in April, so I'm almost halfway through my 20s. Oh my gosh. I don't like that. But I guess I'm no longer in my early 20s, so if you are in your early 20s and you're making those decisions, or even if you're not, but you kind of just don't know like what you're doing, or you have a lot of questions about like where you're gonna end up or your relationship, I highly recommend checking out and listening to this episode in full because I kind of cover everything. Of course, before we jump in, it's time for a quick life update. If you're watching, I'm so sorry for my hair today. I don't know what she's doing. I was trying to do something with my bangs, but it's not working. And then I was gonna cut them so that they could be like short, like across my forehead bangs. But then Josh told me that was a really bad idea and I would probably mess them up. And my hair is my life, so I decided not to. Like, genuinely, I am so dependent on my hair. It is such a big security blanket for me. It has been since I was literally a child. So yeah, I decided not to. But now I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if I like the vibes right now or if I look So just let it happen. You know, we're vibing with it today. It's a Sunday. Things are good. I have to get this up. I have to pack orders for the Barkade, which if you already ordered a mystery box for your doggo from the Barkade, thank you so much. I appreciate literally every single sale. Makes me cry. Like, any support is just so crazy to me. I have a tendency to not believe in myself or to have a lot of self-doubt even when I have absolutely no reason to. And you guys know that I've talked about having crazy imposter syndrome. So anytime that anyone shows me support in any way, whether that's liking a post or purchasing a mystery box, it literally makes me cry because it means the world. So yeah, don't forget that there's a giveaway going on there until Wednesday, November 8th. So you could win a mystery box for your pup. You can enter that on the giveaway post, which is at Shop the Barkade on Instagram. Other than that, I have to write the outline for our spooky podcast, and then I need to clean. I spent this weekend deep cleaning, and it was honestly very healing. It was so nice to just clean, like move the couches, clean the floor, clean. I really have, I mean, there's still like a lot to get done, but genuinely, like, we're getting there and I have a vision and I'm really excited about it. So yeah, those are really all the life updates I have right now. Before I jump in, don't forget to follow on whatever platform you are currently listening or watching on, and follow on TikTok and Instagram. Those are down below as well. I post on there obviously more than I post on here, probably. I would say so. And it's a good time. We're a community of women working to become the best version of ourselves. So if you want to join, I think that that's the best place to go. So yeah, with that being said, let's jump on into this big sister advice. So the biggest one I think that I have learned in the past year, I am someone who, guys, my bunnies are just throwing down. What is going on? Okay, so in the past year, I've really learned this one. I am someone who is notoriously pretty impatient. I just want things to happen immediately. And it's not that I'm not willing to put the hard work in. I just like, I want to, as soon as I put in the hard work, I want to see results. And you can't always do that. So one thing that I've learned, and I think you should hear as well, is that if you have a passion or dream or a vision for something, that passion or vision or whatever was put on your heart, like that desire was put on your heart for a reason. I truly believe that God wouldn't give you a deep desire to have something happen if it wasn't for a reason. And whether this is a podcast or getting into your dream school or whatever it may be, like that is on your heart, sometimes that may not go your way initially, or there may be times when it goes great and it doesn't go so great. So like an example is, I'll have 4 or 5 episodes that do really, really well, they do really awesome, and then I'll have 4 or 5 episodes that don't do so well, or maybe I'll lose a subscriber / follower or whatever the term is on that platform or something like that. And I look at all of that, and I'm gonna be honest, like a lot of people in my life, like family, are not super supportive of the podcast because it's not something that brings a lot of money into my life. Like it's not a huge source of income, and it does take up a lot of my time. You know, I sometimes feel like the only support I really have for this podcast is you guys. Obviously Josh supports it, but I don't know, like from the people who actually like are my target audience, I feel like you guys are the only people that support it, obviously. So when I go through phases where like an episode doesn't do well, or a couple episodes don't do well, or I lose a couple followers, or, you know, I'm having a hard time finding the time to get it all done, it is really easy for me to kind of go to that default mindset of, well, why am I doing this? Why should I keep doing this? This is a waste of time. It's not working out, or things aren't going well, or whatever. And then I kind of have to go back to like my why, and it's like, because I have a desire to do this, like I have a passion for it, and that's all that matters. So what I'm saying is, a lot of times when you don't have a huge support system of people in your life, like family or friends or whatever, and it may not be going the way that you'd hoped, your default mindset sometimes, most of the time, is to give up. But what I'm going to tell you is, do not give up. Keep going. Instead of questioning if you should be doing it, go back to the drawing board and question what you can change. So for me, I lean a lot on marketing. Like, if something isn't going right, a lot of times my question is, okay, how can I change the marketing of it? How can I get this out to more people? How can I edit it differently? How can I shift my podcast topics to be something that people resonate with more while still being authentic to the following I already have? Like, you can pivot the path to get there without quitting entirely, and that's something I've learned. I'm a very all or nothing person, and I've learned that just because something doesn't work out doesn't mean you should just give up. It means maybe just reevaluate. So my biggest first tip, I don't know if it's my biggest, it may resonate with you the most, and I'd say that's your biggest if it does, but my first tip is that if you have something you're passionate for and it's not going well, don't give up. Reevaluate, re-strategize, and play with it. You can be upset, you can feel unsupported, you can have a bad day, but you can't stop doing it, because if you stop doing it 10 years from now, you're going to question what would have happened if you kept going. So definitely keep going. My next piece of advice is that nothing is permanent. I know a big thing going on with people in their 20s is your job. If you hate your job, if you don't like it in any way, if you have been thinking about leaving for a while but you're scared, I want to tell you that even though your career and your job feel so permanent and they feel like something that's going to affect you for your whole life, your job that you're at right now is not permanent. It is not going to be something you do for the rest of your life. You could stay there for 20 years and it's still not something that you do for the rest of your life. So if you don't like your job, there's one you're going to be much happier doing out there. You just might have to sacrifice or compromise things to make it happen. An example of this would be maybe moving to another place where that job is more accessible, and you know, you apply for your dream job across the country and you get it, but then you have to move. Or if it's within reason, you may have to take a salary cut. Don't take a salary cut if it's at the point where you're not going to be able to live and pay rent and eat and things like that. But if it's something you're passionate about and that salary cut is within reason, you have to really weigh money and happiness and ask yourself which one is gonna outweigh the other in this situation. Nothing is permanent. Literally nothing. Nothing in your life is permanent. I promise you that. So if you're unhappy with something, it's time to shake it up. That brings us to our third point, and that's that life is too short to stay unhappy. If you're not happy somewhere, maybe you're unhappy with your apartment complex, or you're unhappy with the city you live in, or you're unhappy with your house, then nothing's stopping you from moving. You may have to live out the rest of a lease, but get your ducks in a row to figure out what you're going to do when you're done with that. Or, you know, start looking at other situations where if the market's in a bad spot and you don't want to live somewhere anymore and you own that house, maybe rent that house out and go live somewhere else, and then you're making an additional income. There's a lot of creative ways to change your situation in your favor that a lot of people don't think about. A lot of people think that when a situation goes wrong, there's one right way and one wrong way. But there's a lot of creative solutions, and if you're willing to look for them, your life is going to get so much more colorful and honestly so much better, because you're going to be using these creative solutions to improve your life. So on that same topic of life is too short to stay unhappy, if you're unhappy in a relationship, nothing's stopping you from leaving. And I know that it's not that simple in some situations. Like if you're unhappy right now and you're in a toxic relationship or something like that, you're probably listening to this thinking, Grace, it's not that simple. It's not that black and white. I can't leave. This is going on. But it's like, it really is that simple. The only thing preventing you from leaving is yourself. And you can say like, oh, well, I'm not financially independent. I depend on him for that. That's okay. You don't have to leave today. But work towards being more financially independent so that you can leave when the time comes. Or, you know, if you really needed to, you can talk to family or friends and see what you can do so that they can help you until you get on your feet. Or, you know, get a job where you make more if that's an option. Like, again, going back to these creative solutions, and I am not in your shoes, so I don't know the exact situation. And I know that you're probably listening to this if you're in a situation where you feel like it's not that simple and you're shaking your head right now. But it is that simple. And like I said, it doesn't have to happen today, but you can make a plan for it to happen when you're ready. And if you don't take steps towards that plan happening, then it's never going to happen, you know? So what I do want to say, a little advice with that on the topic of if you're not happy in a relationship, leave. Also make sure you're within reason. Fighting is healthy in a relationship. Fighting means that you're both like care about each other, you're passionate about a topic, you're passionate about your future. Fighting is so normal in a relationship. It's honestly more of a red flag to me if you don't fight at all than if you fight. Because if you fight, it means you're communicating, you're willing to have tough conversations, and you care enough and you're passionate enough about something that pertains to the both of you that you fight about it. Now, the difference is if you're fighting every single day and they're big topics and you are unhappy, that's when it's time to consider leaving. If it's like you have one fight and you're like, I'm unhappy right now in this moment, I'm not talking to you. Like, that's normal. You're gonna have days where you're just like, everything sucks. Like, we got in a fight, he's so annoying. That's normal. But if it's 80% of the time where you're unhappy and like there's a little 20% of the time where there's like a sliver of hope, then sis, what's going on here? Like, we need to reevaluate. Life is too short to be unhappy. And that also pertains to like jobs and stuff. You're gonna have a bad day at work and things like that. If you're overall happy in the situation, I'm not telling you to leave, because it's unrealistic to think that you're never gonna have a bad day, or you're never gonna be unhappy, or things are never gonna go different than what you planned. Like, there is a lot of things to consider, but generally, if you are unhappy 90% of the time, or 80%, or majority of the time, then that's what I'm talking about. On that same kind of note is, think about your priorities. Why did I say that so weird? Prioritize what makes you happy. So, work, no offense, but you can think that your work is a family. You can think that they care about you. And maybe they do as people, but at the end of the day, the business is always going to come first. okay? So in your personal life, I would never, ever, 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 ever prioritize work where you are not the CEO, the boss, the one in charge, okay? You need to prioritize what makes you happy. And if you are working to have an income to do all the things that do make you happy, then you're not working, like, work is not what makes you happy. The money that you make is what makes you happy. So when you are in your hours where you're not at work, then you need to be doing what makes you happy. Prioritize that over the things that suck. Because in my opinion, life is just way too short. You never know when your last moment on earth is. And are you going to spend all of your time prioritizing the things that suck simply because you feel an obligation to do it? Or are you going to spend your time prioritizing things that make you happy so that you can live a happy life? So basically, I know this is like an example for me. I hate cleaning. Cleaning does not make me happy, but you know what does make me happy? A beautiful, clean home. So what I'm going to do is prioritize cleaning because of the end goal. Now, I work 40 hours a week. Outside of those hours, I don't do that job. I focus on my podcast. I focus on my other podcast. I focus on Barkade because those are things I'm passionate about and make me happy. I work, and I do enjoy work. I have so much fun at work. I love the people I work with, but I also know that it's just business, and it's not like a personal relationship. It's a professional relationship. So I don't prioritize work when I'm not at work. Does that make sense? Like, I prioritize work when I'm at work because it makes me happy in the sense that I get money to do things that make me happy. But when I'm not there, I'm not prioritizing it because work itself is not something that makes me happy and I'm not passionate. Like, it's not like something that I do because I just love it so much, which I think everyone can agree on, like, when it comes to your job. I don't know. Did that make any sense? Just prioritize what makes you happy. Prioritize hanging out with your pets and seeing your family and going on nature walks and picking up a hobby that you love, because those are the things that matter at the end of the day. You're going to look back on your life and think about the memories with those you love and how happy they made you. You're not going to look back and say, I'm so happy that I spent extra time on my job when, like, no one's gonna notice it and I don't get paid enough to do that anyway. You know? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, work hard at work. Prioritize things that make you happy outside of work. I don't know. That's my mantra. I asked Josh if he had one piece of advice that he could give anyone based on his knowledge, what would it be? And he said to show up as the best version of yourself who already has everything they want and don't settle for less. So his, like our translation of what he said for, like, dudes is that you want to show up as that girl. You know you're that girl. Everyone else should be on the same level of understanding that you are that girl. And you are not going to settle for less because you are that girl. You are the version of yourself that you want to become. You have other things. You are the most confident, most capable, coolest, hardest working, nicest version of yourself that you can possibly be. And you're special. Like, you are a special, beautiful, amazing human being. And everyone else should be on that level of understanding as well. So show up as that person and don't settle for less. The next piece of advice I have is start on being healthy now. You don't want to play catch up later. This is really hard for me, and you guys know I've been working on it. I talked about it. I don't want to be 40, get diagnosed with something because I ate horribly my whole life and never went to the gym, and then have to suddenly learn how to exercise, how to eat healthy, how to do all these things. I want to set those habits now to keep myself from getting sick and having issues later. So I want to be preventative. And it's kind of like preventative maintenance, like you do on a car, like giving your car an oil change, except it's your body. So, like, I'm going to eat healthy so that my body gets the nourishment it needs and it prevents any bad things from happening later. I want to go to the gym so that my body is healthy and strong in a physical standpoint so that I don't have any issues later. Start being healthy now. Personally, this next piece of advice I think you need to hear if you're someone who feels like they need to dull themselves or that the version of themselves that they act as is too much. I'm going to tell you right now, I learned this and it was really, really helpful for me, and I think that you could learn from it as well. There's such thing as healthy chaos. You can be a healthy level of chaotic that is not toxic. It's okay to be crazy and silly and fun and, in the words of TikTok, feral, and not be toxic. You are not too much if you show up as this fun, wild, beautiful version of yourself that is not toned down. And I love it. I love being a healthy level of chaotic. It is so fun for me because that's when I'm being my most chaotic self. I'm not being toxic. I'm not hurting anyone. I am just being a healthy level of chaotic. And it's, you know, it adds a little spark to the day. It adds a little spice. And I love it. So if you are someone who is a little bit more, I don't even know how to explain it. You're just a little bit crazier than what the typical woman is said to be. And I say crazy like you're more talkative, you're more wild, you're more self-aware. You are willing to say your opinions and thoughts, and you are okay with that, and you are the girl who just runs down the street to go to the bars and you're silly and goofy. Don't change a thing. There's nothing wrong with that. There is one last piece of advice I want to leave you with, and that is to act your age. Not older and not younger. I am someone who has always acted old, mature for my age, ever since I was younger. And now that I'm 24, I wish that I would have acted my age when I was going through the process, because I missed out on so much because I was trying so hard to be older than I am. Act your age, go to parties, hang out with friends, have so much fun. Don't act older, but also don't act younger. You should act your age. Like, you should have the maturity level of someone your age. You should make the mistakes of someone your age. You should hang out and do the things that someone your age does. We're meant to experience so much in life. In my opinion, the only way to experience all the things that we are meant to experience in our life is to take them as they come and act our age. You know, like, if you're someone who went to college and you went to a American university, going to frat parties is something that I think is so much fun that you should experience at least once in your life. But if you go to college and spend your entire college experience acting older than you are, then you probably didn't go to those frat parties. You probably didn't experience walking back home at 3 a.m. with your friends in downtown in a city, and you just like don't know where you're going, but you don't really care because you're with your friends and everything is just so much fun and perfect in that moment, and you just could not be having more fun and could not be happier. And then when you're older, like me, where you're hitting 25 and you're obviously, I'm not going to frat parties anymore. There was 3 years that I didn't do that, so I look back on it and I'm like, man, I wish I would have done that instead of going home and taking care of my family who really didn't need me to take care of them. I just felt like I had a responsibility to. So instead of hanging out with people my age, I was doing things that a full-blown adult does. And now I wish I would have experienced all the things that someone my age did, but I can't go back and change it. And I'm so, so grateful for the memories I do have of doing those things, and I wouldn't trade them for the world. So I want to leave you with the advice of act your age. You only are going to be this age once. So soak it all in, embrace it, and be who you are. Act your age while you have that number or age mindset that you have. So that is pretty much it. That is my sisterly advice, big sis advice for this episode. Let me know if you want me to do another episode like this. I'm sure I could come up with way more advice. This was just the stuff I came up with at the top of my head that I felt like was the most general overarching advice that I would give anyone if they came to me and said, hey, I am in my 20s, what advice would you give me? So I hope that you guys enjoyed. Let me know what your favorite piece of advice was. If you're able to comment down below, let me know. If you are not, definitely reach out on Instagram and let me know. I'll probably post something that is regarding this episode, so comment on that. Don't forget to like if you're on YouTube. Don't forget to give it a rating and a review if you're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. One rating or review is free. It takes about half a second and it blows up the podcast. I would appreciate every ounce of support that you gave. I already talked about this, but it is the most literally makes me the happiest in the entire world, which is insane, I know, but it does. I love you guys so, so much. Thank you so much for listening. I upload every single Sunday and Wednesday. If you are watching this on the Sunday it comes out, I hope you have a great night. If you're watching this on any other day, I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or night. I love you so, so much, and I'll see you in my next podcast episode. Bye, guys.